This is Dan Bolin, and I'm the host of the podcast, The Courage to Be Courageous, where people come from all parts of the world to be able to embrace their fear and use courage to get through it. You know, we all have fear in our lives. It's common, and yet each fear sometimes is unique. But we also have courage, and courage helps us to get through our fear. And I think we're going to have a great podcast guest today. This particular hospital, or they call it the Cleveland Clinic, is very special to me, and let me tell you why. I have heart issues, heart problems, and have for a number of years. Even though I work out very actively, I'm going to be going to Cleveland Clinic this next week to have open heart surgery. And so I had the opportunity to research Cleveland Clinic and knew they were number one in the world for doing open heart surgery. And I wanted to have Claudia Wilson as a guest on my podcast. Claudia and I have known each other for 3 or 4 years. We spent time together socially. I've been going to Cleveland Clinic for the last 3 or 4 years, every 6 months. And I want to really have her make statements that are pretty powerful about Cleveland Clinic, what they've been able to do, why they're number one in the world for what they do, so that my listeners out there, if they have any health issues, whether it be heart issues or even cancer issues, because Cleveland Clinic is doing some of those things in those areas as well. And Claudia and I will talk about that as well. So this is a very special guest today. This is one of the beneficiaries that I have when I pass on, is to give Cleveland Clinic, because they're a research hospital and they are a nonprofit, so to speak. And we're going to talk about this. Wonderful, wonderful clinic. Claudia, it's good to see you. And you always look as great as usual.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. You look great, too.
Thank you. Well, Claudia is the Associate Director of Development, and she heads a team of 12 to 15 people. Claudia, tell us a little bit about what you do and your coming to Cleveland Clinic and what that has meant for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I've known for a while that I wanted to get into the nonprofit sector, because I wanted to kind of use my skill set in order to further missions that I really believed in. And I went back and got my master's degree in nonprofit management at Ohio State, graduated in 2016 with that degree, and had some connections to the Cleveland area. And so moved up there, had a really rich history. Cleveland has a very rich history of nonprofit work and philanthropy in Cleveland. So I knew there'd be some great opportunities for me there. I went and I started with a diocese and worked on a capital campaign for a diocese there for a number of years. It was successful. I was kind of ready to move on to the next challenge. And Cleveland Clinic, which I had known about my whole life and had always thought such great things of, they were hiring. And I kind of felt like, hey, if they're crazy enough to have me, I don't know if I'd ever leave. And that was almost 5 years ago. And I've been there ever since. And it's a great place to work and a great mission to support.
Thank you. I appreciate those comments. Now, what's interesting, the U.S. News and World Report has ranked the Cleveland Clinic as the number one facility in the world for heart. And so they have for almost 30 years. Tell us how they were able to earn that designation.
Yeah, there's been a really rich history of innovation here at Cleveland Clinic that's really been backed and supported by data. So there's been a number of influences that have kind of coalesced to be a perfect storm, so to speak, of why Cleveland Clinic is so renowned in what they do in heart care. So there's, like I said, there's a great history of innovation here, starting with back in the 50s. There was the first coronary angiography, and then a first stopped heart operation using potassium on a heart and lung machine, which is really kind of the predecessor of most modern heart operations. And these kinds of innovations really kind of just stoke a culture and a work environment around innovation and attracting kind of the great minds of the day to come here to Cleveland Clinic. And then over the decades, there's just been, innovation after innovation here within heart. And that attracted funding from the NIH and other federal grants that really kind of helped us pick up steam. And then in the 1970s, in 1972, we created a database, which over the years has culminated into the biggest database of its kind in the world, which is as every patient comes through our doors who's a heart patient, we have data points on their care and their trajectory that we then are able to go back and use in our outcomes research. So we have there's a number of research projects that are going on every year, and this database is really the backbone of that. And so we're able to say conclusively through research that we go on to publish, based off our database, we're able to say these patients with these kinds of factors, age, gender, that kind of thing, they go on to have better success when there's an intervention earlier rather than later, or an intervention with this kind of drug versus this kind of surgery. And we're able to kind of give these recommendations to our patients that's backed by data and backed by research. So our patients can feel like they're getting the best information, and they go on to have great care.
That's remarkable too as well. And one of the things when Claudia and I were talking earlier, they hire doctors or physicians that are really kind of like scientists. Explain what you meant by that comment.
Yeah, so we have a term here that we call physician scientists here at Cleveland Clinic. And it goes on to say, of course, anybody, a physician can come on to Cleveland Clinic and absolutely just see patients if that's what their passion lies. If they want to be a clinician, they can absolutely come here and be a clinician. But we do try to look for those folks and try to attract those folks who both want to see patients and also do research, so that we find that these individuals are really driven to find solutions for their patients and conduct their own research. We like that. We like that drive. We like that curiosity, and it drives a culture of research here at Cleveland Clinic that we think goes on to drive breakthroughs and innovations for our patients.
And it's interesting because if they come on and they're a physician and they're interested in research and that's their passion as a scientist and as a physician, it adds more to your database because they're going to be contributing to that database. And so that's
our database is really built off of patient data. Of course, it's all depersonalized, so there's no way you could pick out individual attributes of any of these data points. But because we're such a high volume center, we've grown and built ourselves through our reputation over the years. So we do a huge volume of surgeries. We see a huge volume of patients through our heart hospital. And each one of those patients goes on to be a data point in our data set, which means that we have a great, we don't have a small sample size, let's put it that way, which is a good thing when you're conducting research.
But it looks like I'm going to be part of your data set. I'm going to be part of your database.
Yes.
It looks like
you are. Yes, absolutely.
That's fascinating as well. Now, I think it was 1970 you had your first valve replacement and repair in the 70s.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. So in the 1970s, we saw the development of valve replacement and repair surgery, which has, back then was incredibly groundbreaking. And today we do thousands of those kinds of surgeries every year.
And I think you said the mortality rate is 0.
Yes. For mitral valve repair. Yes.
It's 0.
So for mitral valve repair, we have seen a mortality rate of 0%, I believe, since 2014, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, we pride ourselves in having incredibly low mortality rates in other areas and other surgeries as well. But that one we're particularly proud of because we've had such a great run. Yeah.
And I believe it was in 2000 or 2000 you did your first heart transplant, or was it? Yes, I believe you've done over 2,000 heart transplants, right?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
That's
so in
2021, right? As of
Yeah.
2021, 2000, yeah.
Actually, no. It was either 2020 or 21 that we reached that milestone. And in the 1980s is when our heart transplant program was established.
Okay, now.
So and then, it's around, it may seem like a small amount, but something that, I didn't realize was how quite rare heart transplant is. We're a huge volume center, and we do between mid 50s to mid 70s or so heart transplants every year. So it took a number of decades to reach our 2000th heart transplant, but it's a remarkable milestone to reach for a heart transplant program. Absolutely.
Number one in the world for what you're doing. There's absolutely no question about that as well. But let's talk about other areas of expertise that, even though they're number one in the world for their heart surgery, there's also some other areas that we talked about regarding cancer and neurological things. Tell us about those, if you would, Claudia.
Yeah, absolutely. Our cancer program is something that I think we've been incredibly excited about to see grow over the years, especially recently. I think like anything, certain hospital systems develop a reputation like we have in heart that's been well earned over a number of years. But I think a lot of people associate us with heart and don't necessarily know us for our cancer program, but we have a tremendous program here at Cleveland Clinic. And I think we're growing in reputation as kind of the good word gets out. We do some incredible cancer research here at Cleveland Clinic, spearheaded by, as many local Cleveland people will know, our Velasano initiative, which is an annual fundraiser we have for cancer research here at Cleveland Clinic that has a signature bike ride every year. And that has really kind of driven some really innovative and cutting edge research within cancer here at Cleveland Clinic. So that philanthropic initiative raises funds. Our scientists here at Cleveland Clinic, our cancer researchers here at Cleveland Clinic, they have an idea. It's kind of like Shark Tank for cancer, if you will. And they have a great innovative idea, and they're able to apply for a grant here at Cleveland Clinic internally rather than going to an outside agency or to the government. And they're able to say, hey, I've got a great idea. It's really cutting edge. I need some funds. And, the committee is able to award those grants accordingly to the best ideas. And it's really developed some really great research. And then additionally, you mentioned our Neurological Institute. It's something that Cleveland Clinic is really throwing our weight behind because, frankly, we're outliving our brains. The head of our Neurological Institute, Dr. Machado, said, he's kind of famously quoted to have said, we either needed to start investing in neurodegenerative illness research in a big way, or we need to start building more nursing homes because, like I said, we're outliving our brains. So we, a couple of years ago, started a massive first of its kind in the world study around brain health. We call it our Cleveland Clinic Brain Study. It will span decades of time and will follow thousands of healthy individuals who have volunteered to participate. They will come in every year as a part of the study. They'll get an MRI, they'll get some tests done. They're enrolled into the study as healthy individuals of a certain age. And then we'll follow them over the years. And we know that because the study is so large, that a certain percentage of those individuals will go on to develop Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or another neurodegenerative illness. And the hope of this is that we'll be able to better and earlier diagnose Alzheimer's in individuals so that we can better and earlier intervene with their condition. Because right now we're diagnosing too late. We're diagnosing after symptoms are present. And that's often too late to really do something about the condition.
That makes so much sense.
It's a long thing. Yeah. It's a long time in the making. But we believe it will be, again, just the backbone for a lot of innovation, not just here at the Cleveland Clinic, but across the world.
I think what is so powerful about what you said there, so many of us My partner, John's mother has serious dementia, Alzheimer's right now. My dad
Yes.
had
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
my dad had dementia. It is such
Mm-hmm.
common among almost all people. They know somebody who has it, or their parents have it, or
Mm-hmm.
they have a sibling that has it. So I think what you're doing that is such a powerful thing, and such an important thing that Cleveland Clinic is investing in that, because so many
Mm-hmm.
people are affected by that personally as well. I want to share one thought.
Mm-hmm.
John and I have a friend who his wife is a well-known doctor in this area. She actually did a fellowship at Cleveland Clinic for a whole year in doing cancer researches, primarily for breast cancer. And so I know how well she thinks of Cleveland Clinic and how powerful her experience was here as well. So I can see you're branching out in areas that are really so important for our population nowadays, not just knowing it as a number one heart center, but you're branching out in other areas where the need for this medical treatment is necessary. And I really applaud you for doing that as well. That's really that's just really fascinating, because I'm learning. I'm obviously been going to clinic for 3 or 4 years. I go twice a year, and I've learned a lot about them. But Claudia is giving me so much more information to really digest and understand. Now, one of the things I think is important is how they treat the sick of the sick. In other words, there's a lot of people who are having conditions that are the sick of the sick, so to speak. And I think they treat these individuals as a family. When I first got connected with Cleveland Clinic, and my heart surgeon, Eric Rosselli, his associate or secretary or whatever she was, made a comment: when you come to Cleveland Clinic, you'll be treated as a family. You become part of the family. And I had a gentleman who shared with me the other day, who's been to Cleveland Clinic and has had obviously some surgery, and said it runs like a well-oiled machine. I think this is so important, that you're meeting not only the physical needs, but the emotional needs, and making a patient feel like family. Because let's be honest, they're fearful. I'm fearful, but I believe I have courage to get through that fear. And I know I have the best organization in the world. But I think that was so powerful, the comment they said: we treat you like a family, and we obviously run it as a well-oiled machine, because you do so many of these surgeries. You have to have it well run as a well-oiled machine. Comment on that for me, because I think that's such a good comment that she made.
Yeah. So we were founded over 100 years ago, and we were founded actually by doctors who served in World War I. And they saw how medicine was done on the battlefield. And it was done by a team. A soldier needed assistance, and there would be a team of doctors around him, doing what he needed, right, to save his life. And they really brought that back to Cleveland Clinic when they started it, and thought, patients should have a team. They should be treated as a team, not just one doctor who deals with this one thing, passed on to another doctor who deals with this. It's really a coordinated team effort surrounded by one patient. And so you'll hear here, if you ever were to come to Cleveland Clinic and talk to the staff here, and you mention a team of teams, they will say, oh, yes. Yes. That's very much how we do things here. Absolutely. Patients have a team that surrounds them, physicians, nurses, other clinicians as well, that are really, working together as a coordinated effort in order to make sure that this patient has the best outcome possible and has the best experience, frankly, as well. And I think that has really stuck around. I think it's been a culture that we've worked really hard to preserve. Our physicians do rounds in the morning and in the afternoon around the floor and discuss patients and the best next steps for that patient. And I think it's something that, started over 100 years ago and is still the backbone of how we handle our care here and how we handle our patients. And It always makes me smile when I hear that someone who's been to Cleveland Clinic has felt that when they've been here, because there's such an effort to make sure that our patients feel that kind of support and feel like they're in good hands, and the left hand is talking to the right hand and all that kind of thing. So so that's really been the culture here at Cleveland Clinic. Absolutely.
And to really add on to that, I have a packet of stuff that I've been reading through because I'm leaving, as I said, this week to have my open heart surgery at Cleveland Clinic. I meet with obviously the surgeon, Dr. Rosselli. I meet with his surgical team. I meet with his nurses. I meet with the anesthesiologist. I meet with everybody that's a part of the team. So that gives that feeling of family. I got a family behind me here. And it makes us I think it makes us feel more courageous when we see that we're facing something, especially with heart issues, that is very, very critical for us. And we need to have family behind us, a medical family behind us. And I'm just so appreciative having that at Cleveland Clinic. That is just very special for me. Now, let's talk about also, this is a nonprofit hospital, obviously. We're going to talk about where the money goes once the insurance covers it, what they cover, and then everybody's obviously receives what they receive for what they're doing. But then where do the profits go? And I think you mentioned it goes into 3 areas that you mentioned there. Tell us about that, Claudia.
Absolutely. So when we look at the end of the year and we have a certain amount of profit from over the year from insurance companies and payouts, that kind of thing, we reinvest it into the mission. That's what that means to be a nonprofit. Anything that we earn, we reinvest into our mission. And you can really break down our mission into 3 buckets. The first being research, kind of an obvious one. We really look to, we have hundreds and hundreds of research projects that are going on here at Cleveland Clinic every year. It's vital to our mission because we want to bring the best to our patients and bring the best to patients around the world. So research is number 1. 2, education. We are a teaching hospital here at Cleveland Clinic. Your friend who did her fellowship here, that education, those education funds go on to support things like fellowships and residencies and that kind of thing. And also continued education for our staff here, right? Because there are new things coming out every year. Education never stops once you become a doctor. So education is a huge part of what we do here at Cleveland Clinic. And finally, patient care. It's doing things in order to reinvest into supporting our patients so that their care here is the best that it possibly can be and that they have the best outcome they possibly can have. So, and then on top of that, we also are able to accept philanthropic donations in order to further these missions. So individuals, families, foundations, businesses with a, kind of a philanthropic mission, they're able, if they believe in what we do and there's an area that they feel particularly passionate about, they're able to direct their philanthropic donation to any given area that they want to support here at Cleveland Clinic.
Wow, that's fantastic as well. Now, if somebody wanted to donate to the Cleveland Clinic, can you give us some information on how they would be able to do that?
Absolutely. The best and quickest way would be to go to our website, which is give.ccs.org. There's a number of resources there. There's a phone number you can call as well, or contact form where you're able to learn more about our mission here, and are able to make a donation online if that's what you're looking to do as well. Of course, you're always able to get in touch with someone from our team if there were any questions or something you wanted to talk through, that kind of thing. We've got a great staff here that's able to answer any questions that you might have or walk you through anything that you might want to explore.
So repeat the website again so they understand
Absolutely.
it. You could repeat it one more time?
Yeah.
And can you give us a telephone number they could call as well?
Absolutely. Let me pull that up here. So it's give.ccs.org. And like I said, it'll take you to a web page which explains a lot more about our donation. You'll be able to immediately make a donation online if you'd like to, or you'll be able to contact our team. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and give an email rather than a phone number, if that's just because I think that actually might be the better way to get a hold of someone on our team if you are interested in learning more. That email would be giving, GIVING, @ccf.org. So if you had any additional questions or wanted to get in touch with someone from our team, go ahead and give that email, send that email an email, and someone will get in touch with you shortly.
Excellent. And there's different ways to give, too. For example, they're a part of my trust, my beneficiary. And so there's different ways they can do that as well. And one of the things I think is so important is for those of our listeners that may be having heart issues or having issues with cancer or whatever, and they would like to get a hold of Cleveland Clinic, how would they be able to do that, Claudia?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, you can simply go to our website. I think a lot of people think that they need to have, they need a referral or, that they need to know somebody, in order to get in. And that's just frankly not the case. So we do have a general number line that you can call if you are interested in making an appointment here at Cleveland Clinic. That number is 866-320-4573.
And isn't that for the Heart Institute, that particular number?
That particular number is for a general, it's for any and all appointments. Yeah. So they would be able to direct you to any department that you would need to potentially schedule with.
Okay, very good. And that sounds excellent as well, too. So I always ask my guests of my podcast to always share how your story about Cleveland Clinic would be able to help individuals that are struggling with health issues in their life, have fear about obviously dealing with their issues and need courage to get through it. I think you made some really important thoughts about advocacy. Talk about what you mean to be your own advocate. I think that's a very powerful comment. Express what you mean by that.
Absolutely. Yeah. While I can't pretend that I've been in the shoes as some of our patients, some of them are just dealing with such tremendous hardship and are so courageous and brave in the face of that. And I greatly admire them for it. And one of the things that I see time and time again that always impresses me, and I think gives them something really constructive to do, with their, if they do have some fear, they're able to channel it in a productive way. And that's through being their own advocate for their health. Nobody knows your body and your health the way that you do.
Absolutely.
And I think, especially when you're looking for a diagnosis, you don't know what's going on, you're trying to get to the bottom of things. I think, like I said, being your own advocate, looking things up online, getting in front of the right people, and being the best advocate for yourself, I think can be a really constructive and powerful way to combat any fear that you might have and channel it to something really, really positive and hopefully get yourself some answers and, some resolution to whatever health issues you've got going on.
Excellent. I appreciate that. One of the things I asked Claudia after we finished our prelude on this, I asked her if she had a heart issue, would she have it done at Cleveland Clinic? And she said, absolutely, no question.
Without question.
Okay.
No question.
Claudia, it's been such a gift having you today on my podcast. You've given us some really good information about how Cleveland Clinic started, their commitment and their passion toward not only heart, but cancer, even talking about eye care before, and also areas about neurological things they're doing. It's been so informative to me, and I'm sure it's been informative to my listeners as well. And we've given them a contact, how they can get in touch with you, how they can make donations if they would like to the Cleveland Clinic. And this one's very close to my heart. This Cleveland Clinic, it's been a part of my life for several years, and I've had the opportunity to meet Claudia, spend time with her. with both her and my partner, John. And I thank you so much for taking the time and helping my listeners to understand the benefit of Cleveland Clinic can be in their life. Thank you so much, Claudia. It's been a real pleasure having you.
Thank you, Dan. It's been great. Thanks so much.
We'll see you in a few days. Thank you so much.
Bye, Dan.
Bye-bye now.